I'm Gary Yeoman. I'm the token Cleveland connection that's in the room of Michael's life that we spent together for 5 or 6 years and did some wonderful things to be discussed a little bit later. I've been asked to read a piece that Michael wrote in 2011 in response to an article in the New York Times, Memories, Reflections on Not Being Italian, San Francisco, North Beach, and New York. Little Italy, fewer and fewer Italians. I think this was Michael's response, and it was at a time in his life, and you'll see it in this discussion, where he was really at a low point. This was in the probably late 70s, and I think this was Michael's response to the New York Times article. Michael's reflection, I think, really on his Paradise Lost. I'm not Italian, nor been to Italy, except North Beach in San Francisco, which is like a smaller New York Little Italy in the 1970s, where I lived on Tuscany Alley, a street that was only 1 block sidewalk and no cars. Before then, I'd been in the Haight-Ashbury, creating the People's Medical School, which along with other projects of the Haight-Ashbury Community Development Corporation, housing co-ops, storefront social service projects, the Haight-Ashbury food store, community-owned cafes, etc. We plan to take over the storefronts and create a pre-Zapatista, liberated and parallel universe. But when I wanted to experience how I really wanted to live, I went to North Beach, to the Cafe Trieste, usually with Jenny, my then girlfriend and then to-be wife. On Thursdays when my unemployment check came, to the Cafe Trieste to have transporting experiences that only their cafe lattes and an almond ring diadans could produce. The days were always brighter there, the air fresh, with roasting coffee, and not the offensive smell of exhaust of 2-stroke Vespas that the Italian guys and I also had, and drove recklessly through the narrow streets. Yolanda, on loan to the Trieste, worked the espresso counter, though never the espresso machine. Was from Italy, loved Jenny, whose bright always smile matched hers, and always called her or asked me about my Bella. Jenny's parents had 2 Alfa Romeos, and when we didn't arrive on my Vespa, we often had one of these giving us extra creed and affection for Yolanda, who longed for over 20 years to return. She finally did, to Italy. Jenny, who was a graduate student in dance, did her master's thesis in North Beach, using her company. What else could she call her wonderful participatory cultural celebration in North Beach but a Washington Square dance? I filmed it on Kodak Super 8. A reel still exists, a somewhere treasure to be found. Then I began to lose faith in the Gramscian counter-hegemonic project in the Haight. I started to attend poetry readings in North Beach, including 2 Beatitude Poetry Magazine benefits at the Fox Theater. There I heard Ferlinghetti read Coney Island of the Mind, and Diane DePrima reading the Revolutionary Letters, though each were from New York, seemed in name to be children of North Beach, as well as Bob Kaufman reading his amazing Amandist Manifesto, Jack Michelin's unbelievable street poetry, from which I could never choose a favorite, though I memorized and was transformed by Zion Hill, his O Harlem and Just 2 Eyes Like poems, dead on arrival, rang in my ears for years. Also reading there were Andre Codescu, Kay McDonough, Janice Blue, and recent San Francisco poet laureate Jack Hirschman, reading long communism-inspired poems in several languages and passing out painted poems that he had done on the back of cardboard short rectangles from the dry cleaner. Good old days. I still have one or more of those as well. Neely Tchaikovsky was the MC of this Nisagash, a Yiddish word he used to introduce the evening with, and a word he introduced to me as well, which I still use a lot, and he also read. I was inspired then and rescued by re-beginning to write and read my poetry, some good, not much, but written in despair of the approaching Reagan 80s, though I could never have imagined how horrible they would become, like 1930s Germany. I began to express my pain, and that saved me from the Ernest Hemingway, Richard Bodegon solution. I never read in North Beach, too hollow a ground for someone like me, even if these were, save for DePrima, Kaufman, and Ferlinghetti, not the 1950s of Kerouac, Ginsberg beats, but the baby beats of the 1970s. The bright white sunlight of North Beach and Tuscany Alley also saved me, and the routine of the Trieste for the morning latte cappuccino, pasta al pesto at the U.S. restaurant, or garlic and flaming olive oil fare at the three-table Little Joe's, then ending the day at Mario's Bohemian Cigar Store with Cinzano and antipasta, a focaccia sandwich with Moretta beer. That was my boy Michael. Really great appetites. As the 80s approached, all this ended. I survived to go to grad school in Cleveland and synthesized three sides of my politics: March, Volcate, and Aquarius. Just before I left, I heard Ferlinghetti read The Old Italians Dying, see below, and knew nothing would ever be the same. I also want to, in parentheses, parenthetically say that Michael's going to Cleveland was his salvation, and I will have the honor of talking about that a little later. Unthinkable still is that Jenny and her smile would be dead within 5 years. When I returned to the Trieste 10 years later, Yolanda, remembering my name, was still there. She asked about Bella, not my Bella, because she had become hers too. This woman from northern Italy who I never saw frown, let alone cry, her eyes filled with tears, and then fully knew what had been lost. And Yolanda too now was changed. She returned forever to Italy, and I am glad for both of us. I never wanted to see those tears again. I am married again now to a woman whose beauty, inside and out, is so remarkable, similar to Jenny's, that when I look at pictures, I am not sure which is which. No man deserves this much love. I envy Kate that she had been to the real Italy, even though at 18, it was in order to save her life as well. Fortunately for me, I met Kate when I was again at the end of hope, and then she helped me by taking me to my real cultural birthplace, Ireland. And some ancient circle stones and soft days of rain did the trick. So I don't need North Beach anymore. Good thing, because the little Italy, it's all but gone. And with it, the old Italians, real and imagined. Juliana?
Yes, I'm right here.
Is that Ferlinghetti poem somewhere in this
It's
building?
supposed to be on the altar.
Okay, I just want to reference that. It's a long one, and I'm not going to read all of it, but I just want to read 3 parts of it for a moment. Juliana will let me. She hasn't rang the gong yet.
Is this Coney Island of the Mind? Is that what you're reading?
No, this is Ferlinghetti about old Italians dying. For years, the old Italians have been dying all over America. For years, the old Italians in faded felt hats have been sunning themselves and dying. You have seen them on the beaches, in the park in Washington Square, the old Italians in their black high-buttoned shoes, the old men in their old felt fedoras with stained hat bands, have been dying and dying day by day. They are almost all gone now. They are sitting with and waiting their turn and sunning themselves in front of the church, over the door of which is inscribed a phrase which would seem to be unfinished from Dante's Paradiso, about the glory of the one who moves everything. The other old men, you've seen them sitting here, there, waiting for the bocce ball to stop rolling, waiting for the bell, for the slow bell to be finished tolling, telling the unfinished Paradiso story as seen in an unfinished phrase on the face of a church in a black boat without sails, making his final haul. Love and solidarity, Michael.